Everybody, problems at the medical examiner's office, plus lawmakers trying to keep our state budget in the black. Here's Scott Mitchell with today's Your Vote Counts.
Okay, we've picked up a new skill this last week. It's called writing it on your hand. So we're going to be able to do that. Hey,
an old George Knight technique.
It was a George Knight technique that Sarah Palin.
My old college professor.
Absolutely.
Palin needed about 15 hands, though, to make sure.
Hey, let's start with the state budget, talking about needing more hands because all hands on deck. But Democrats are saying one of the ways we could really solve part of this budget problem is just to go home early.
Well, the Senate, Errol Garrison, Democrat on the other side of the rotunda, basically said this, folks. If you're going to do nothing but a straight 17% or whatever it is, or whatever budget cut straight across the board of all agencies, let's just get it done and let's go home. It's not that simple. We in the House Democrats did not agree with that. We have a job to do. Listen, governing is difficult. Putting together a budget is extremely difficult. When the Democrats were in charge, they did it. Of course, they always got blasted from my friends on the right over here. But, folks, the budget deficit is far more serious than they're letting out. It's far more serious than what the press is alluding to. The governor and the pro tem are fighting. There's no agreement. This is going to get nasty.
The press is wrong.
Well, they're not paying as much attention to this issue as they should be.
But no, in all seriousness, that's correct. What about this idea of going home early, doing across the board cuts, and then going to the House?
Yeah, Senator Garrison's idea is a crazy idea. You know how you have these thoughts that you really ought to keep to yourself? Well, this is one of them, and it's one of the crazier ideas that I've heard expressed at the beginning of this session. We should be very surgical and targeted in the way we're doing these cuts. We're gonna do that. The budget is, of course, the first and most important priority that we have. We've got to get it completed. It's got to be balanced. It's got to be signed off on by the House and by the Senate and by the governor. But to suggest that just because we're in the midst of a budget shortfall that there aren't some very important substantive policy ideas that need to be discussed is, like I said, crazy.
Yeah, like Red Cedar.
Like Red Cedar, you got it.
Okay, let's turn to the medical examiner's mess out here. This is kind of a story that's gotten some attention here at News 9, but not a lot of other places.
That's right.
Why is this so important, and what's up with the medical examiner's office?
Well, the medical examiner's office is obviously one of the more troubled agencies in state government. It didn't get that way overnight, and we're not going to be able to unwind the whole thing overnight either. I was very pleased to see that the governor recently appointed Terry Klein to look into the situation. I say better late than never. He arrived on the scene about 2 years too late. But listen, they're in dire straits down there. We've lost 2 medical examiners. We had lost our national accreditation, had a chief investigator who was indicted and is currently in the process of being prosecuted. We're going to appropriate some money to try to take care of their facility, their infrastructure, and their equipment. My hope is that we can get them moved, Richard, to the UCO campus and get them in a better situation moving forward because it is important.
And it's even criminal trials, homicides. This is a really critical office, isn't it?
Well, absolutely it's critical, and the director that just got fired, he did the autopsy on the individual that was shot and killed in South Oklahoma City during the robbery, the druggist case here in Oklahoma City. It's extremely critical to the judiciary and the judicial process that we have a medical examiner's office that can come to court and testify accurately about their examinations so that a case like that will have a foundation that has legs on it. But this is a problem that has been brewing for years. They've known about it for years. They really haven't done anything about it, and now there's a crisis. So, Randy, let's hope we can fix it.
We have done something, but I'll tell you, you're right. In that pharmacist situation in South Oklahoma City, that case may be compromised.
It may be, and hopefully that's not the case. But
well, that is going to be a big story. Let's go on to, you had mentioned something about, we were talking about the budget a while ago, and you were saying we're going to talk about public safety, but there's also a lot of health care is going to be impacted.
Well, absolutely. We found out yesterday that the Oklahoma Health Care Authority is going to cut Medicaid reimbursements to its providers by another 6.5%, which means all of our seniors and those people that need health care. By the way, a lot of that money comes from, guess what, folks? The stimulus package coming out of Washington, D.C. This thing is critical. The governor and the pro tem and the speaker, there isn't any agreement whatsoever. They are so far apart right now. This year alone, we're looking at a $700 million deficit for 2010. Meals on Wheels for invalids and all of that, it's critical, Randy. We ought to be working harder. We spent 8 days over there, and we haven't done anything.
Richard, I know you love that stimulus money, but it isn't going to save the day.
No, you guys love it. I'm going to get back to that in a minute.
All right, let's get into public safety. You're chairman of the Public Safety Committee over in the House. I mean, we're starting to hear about trooper furloughs. From a public safety standpoint, how is the budget deficit affecting that area of the government?
Assuming that there is no relief in the area of the Department of Public Safety, it's going to necessitate furloughs on the part of both our uniformed troopers as well as our non-uniformed civilian personnel, about 4 days per month through the end of June. That's 16 total. That would obviously be catastrophic because public safety is one of those more core, essential areas of state government that we hope to hold more harmless than some other areas. Listen, guys, the shortfall right now is about $3.1 million. I don't have any grand announcements for you today, but I'm confident that we'll prevent those trooper furloughs anyway. Hopefully we'll have a good announcement by next week.
All right, last topic today, 5th District. Corporation Commissioner Jeff Cloud drops out. It was basically a three-man race in the Republican side of the ticket. Is it making a difference?
Well, I don't think it makes any big difference. Listen, he announced that he was dropping out of the race for personal and medical reasons. I don't know that it was any big surprise. His fundraising after he announced didn't meet expectations. I think that clearly indicates that the two frontrunners in the race are former state representative Kevin Calvi as well as current state representative Mike Thompson. That's going to be a brutal race between those guys who have about $500,000 on hand each. And then the guy to watch is James Lankford, who is this third entry and has the support of some folks on the right, social conservatives. Let's see how it plays out.
And does the Democrats have a shot in that race?
There isn't even a Democrat in the race.
No, the two biggest names that come to my mind would have been ex-Commissioner Roth and the County Sheriff John Wetzel. But neither one of those guys is going to run. This is basically, and has been for almost 40 more years, a Republican seat. Even if a well-known Democrat did announce, they would the RNC would come in and dump $5 to $10 million to save this most precious of Republican seats. I will give Governor Fallon, Congresswoman Carroll, a little bit of credit. Over the last 4 years, unlike the previous congressman that was here, she actually represented Oklahoma City. Give Jeff Cloud a little credit. He did put his name on a ballot.
The plum says back to you.
It'll stay a Republican seat.
Well,